everyone, and welcome to a Time Shifters Podcast Time Hop Edition. This is Christopher here with Tom as always. Tom, how you doing?
Not too bad in this wintry weather.
Well, we've got a film from 2026 called Grizzly Night, which is available now in the U.S. and will be out on February 2nd in the U.K. This film stars Breck Basinger, Jack Griffo, Charles Eston, Joel Johnston, Josh Zuckerman, Matt Lintz, Ali Scoveby, and an appearance with Oded Fehr. And this is the featured directorial debut of Burke Doran. In the film, what begins as a fun weekend ends in terror for campers and park rangers alike when two groups of friends camping in separate locations 9 miles apart within Montana's Glacier National Park are menaced and attacked by grizzly bears. In each group, a bear grabs one of the young women and drags them into the woods. This film is based on real-life events that took place in 1967, and from what I've read of the incident, stays pretty close to the actual events. You can actually read more about it in the book Night of the Grizzlies by Jack Olson, which was published in 1969, which further details these events. It's funny, this thing came across in my email, and it was only, I don't know, maybe a day or two before. For whatever reason, Breck Basinger popped in my head, and I'm like, wonder what she's done since Stargirl. You know, what she's been up to.
Yeah. And
then this email shows up, and I'm like, oh, well, there's at least one thing. So I immediately replied, I was just thinking of this actor. So, yeah, I'd be very interested in checking this film out.
Oh, and I was kind of surprised because I went in completely cold. I didn't watch the trailer or read up on it. I just went ahead and kicked it off. And when Oded showed up, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, cool. Yeah. I was expecting, like, a lot of people I wouldn't be familiar with, and then to see some surprise faces.
Yeah, I didn't list off where a lot of these actors might be known for, but there's a lot of them that have come from Breck Basinger, like I said, was in Stargirl. She was in one of the more recent Final Destination films, I believe. Yeah. There's some Stranger Things actors. Yeah, there's Oded Fehr, who, of course, has been in Star Trek Discovery, and in now Starfleet Academy. He had an appearance. So, yeah, lots of recognizable faces here. The story I didn't know anything about, and I didn't look into, it claimed to be based on true events, and I always take that with a big grain of salt,
Yeah.
But no, I was really interesting that when I kind of looked into it, like, oh, this is, okay, there's this book, and okay, this all really happened, and I'm reading about the actual events. I'm like, well, holy crap, this is what they put on film.
Mm-hmm.
So what you see on film is, with very minor alterations, is what happened in 1967.
And that was, again, since I went into this cold, I had no idea what I was getting into, and we must have kicked it off, and I missed the opening banners because I didn't realize we were in 1967 at the time. So as we're watching this, and like, everything's very fresh looking, very clean, nothing standing out particularly 60s right away. And then when I'm watching it with my son, and he did catch part of the stuff, and he's like, oh, this is based on a true story. Like, oh, okay. Well, we'll have to look into that some more.
That is actually a bit of a criticism I have about the film is that there is nothing about this movie that screams 1960s. If you missed the fact that this is supposed to be in the 60s, you could easily put this in almost any era. There's a couple cars, but they could just be old cars.
Right, yeah.
They talk about, I believe, the Vietnam War, but without actually naming it. They just talk about the war and how the U.S. is out there fighting someone else's war or something along those lines or something. And you could have easily put this in the 90s and you could be talking about the Gulf War or something like that.
Yeah, and actually the part where I was kind of like, wait, when does this take place? Because I got far enough into... There's a scene where there's a group of 5 going camping, and 2 of the guys are vying for the attention of one of the girls, and they're having an incredibly awkward exchange about music, because she brings up Jefferson Starship, and I'm like, wait, why does a girl this age know anything about Jefferson Starship?
Right.
Like, and it was and I didn't get let off the hook right away either until the Vietnam reference, because when one of the kids even goes, "Oh yeah, no, I like that song." that's the name of the band. And the fact that he didn't know that just kind of fed into the, oh well, yeah, no. Why would he know who Jefferson Starship was? So the out of time part, and the thing that kind of got me, since you mentioned the vehicles, it's a minor detail, but I'm pretty sure the helicopter they flew around in was not from 1967.
That's one of the first things I kind of went and looked. I was like, helicopters 1967, and there is no images I could find that matched the helicopter that was used.
No, that was a far newer helicopter. And I, given that this is obviously not the highest of budget films, I give them great marks on the cinematography, and at least being in the locations that they needed to be in. But yeah, trying to get completely period accurate vehicles might have been a little out of the budget.
Maybe. Just jumping back real quick, did she say Jefferson Starship, or did she say Jefferson Airplane?
Jefferson Starship.
See, they didn't even form until the mid 70s.
Oh, really?
They were Jefferson Airplane in the late 60s.
Maybe I'm misremembering.
If that is the band, if that is the band that she said, because now I'm questioning whether that was the band she said or if she was talking about someone else.
I could be misremembering it, but either way, yeah, it was kind of out of left field, and since I hadn't latched on to the fact this is a period piece, it was throwing me off.
Right. Yeah, and there was a couple instances where I felt like the familiarity everyone had with the one African American actor seemed not terribly 60s.
No, it didn't. But there were enough little, like, the fact that this is one of the primary characters is a female ranger, and there was a lot of, oh, you're a female ranger kind of thing. There was a lot of attitude. I'm like, once I understood this to be the late 60s, I'm like, all right, I get why you've thrown that in there. I'm like, this was a weird choice. It was weird. I really needed to catch that like 30 seconds that I missed at the front end.
In the end, when I did the little bit of the research, the fact that the events actually took place in 67, so they were trying to recreate the events and everything. And it does help them get around having to come up with an excuse why no one would have a cell phone or something like that. So I'll give it to them. The minor quibbles, I guess you could say, that we've brought up, you can ignore because it does solve a lot of other problems, and it keeps it historically, at least as far as the story or the events go, accurate.
Right. Now, while I was stating that it's a pretty film, they've put it in the setting that it needs to be in, and it's shot very well. And actually, the acting is not terrible at all. Everybody seems to be on their game for the most part. But because this is supposed to be quasi-horror, I realize being based on actual events and all that, and given what the event is, there's some horror factor to it, but not a lot. There's not as much activity as one might expect out of something called Grizzly Night.
Right.
But the part that is a little off-putting, and again, lack of budget, they actually had bears. They had real bears, and real bears interacting at least with the things that are going on there. But because the bears are not actually mauling anybody, and they haven't gotten the budget to do anything, every time there's an interaction where it's supposed to be the bear mauling them, it's unclear that those are happening in the same scene at all. Like there's one of the kids, a survivor of the experience who was still attacked by the bear. The scene that we get with the initial attack, it looks like the bear's pulling at the bottom of a sleeping bag, but he has a giant chunk out of his back from where the thing, but it's unclear that that bear was anywhere ever near his back.
Yeah, I was a little lost on how he was injured, because
Right.
I don't remember seeing the bear actually attack him. He just suddenly shows up with a chunk out of his leg and a big scrape on his back, and I was like, okay, I guess that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and even when we get to some of the more involved stuff, they show essentially the bears dragging the two girls off separately. One of them is obviously mauled to a point, and I give them credit for showing enough hint of possible gore without having to get over the top about it. That was fine, but the other girl that kind of lived part of the way through her wounds, again, it was unclear what had actually happened. That was the part that was throwing me off. Otherwise, this was actually a fairly compelling story, and again, because I'm a little off from the thing, it was funny watching us go, wait, why are you putting trash bags with food just out in the open in this wilderness setting? And then when they showed you why, so that the bears actually would come up and start eating the trash, just so that the people on the hike could see the bears. I'm like, all of this is a bad idea. And then 1967. Okay, got it.
Well, and this event actually did bring about a lot of changes going forward, and there was a lot of effort to not do that, make rules about what you do with your trash, and there was no more baiting the bears. That was already against the rules, but they would do it anyway because it would please the make the guests happy.
Yeah, and everybody's just looking the other way.
Right, but they were much more stringent after that. The burning of the trash, lots of recommendations for campers to tie your food up on the trees instead of leaving it on the ground. Limiting the amount of campers that go into the park and all that kind of came from this event.
Oh, and it was fascinating to see, because they actually at the end, when they mention the things that policy-wise had changed, but one of them actually has a name, and it's called Pack In, Pack Out. And my son and I were discussing that because he was in Cub Scouts, I was his den leader at the time, and we had to learn about Pack In, Pack Out just for the Scouts. So it was like, oh, so that's where that came from.
Is it a horror film? I've heard the term light horror used, and maybe this would apply. I think it would definitely be more of a thriller, maybe, or just a drama.
Yeah, because it's fairly close to, if they're that close to based on a true story that they've more or less captured, it's almost a docudrama. It's a fascinating watch, and if you are into outdoor activities, kind of getting a little history about it, where some of at least our current thought process for being in the wilderness comes from. Yeah, it was interesting to see, oh, when we did it really badly, this is the kind of thing that could happen.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it was definitely a film that is worth giving a watch. As you said, very good story. I will give some of the issues with like some of the attacks and being able to figure out a way to edit and direct them and blend them together. I will give to a freshman filmmaker, a freshman director, just learning the trade a little bit. Yeah, I'll give it to him. You know, maybe next time, sort of thing. Yeah, the acting is fantastic. Joan, our lead ranger, was my favorite character out of everybody. There was just a few moments that I loved her to death. When she has to do the big hike out with the big crowd, you know, they're walking for miles, and they finally get to the chalet, and she, thank God. And the people behind her, what? We're here. Let's go sit down. She was brilliant.
She was, and kudos to the real person if she did even half of what we saw, because having to put up with the misogyny, being new on the job, dealing with the half-wits that could be and are the people hiking to and from the chalet, and the attitudes that they bring along with them. That's a lot for anyone to take, and then you throw on it an emergency none of you were actually expecting to do, and you're making this all as you go along and still manage to do it pretty successfully. That's pretty cool.
So go and check out 2026 Grizzly Night. As I said, it is available now in the US on DVD and streaming, and it's available February 2nd in the UK and in Ireland. And if you do watch this film, come back and let us know what you thought of it. Follow the link in the show notes to find all our contact information. We will be back in a week with a full episode. So until then, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
See ya.